Namaste, everyone. Welcome back. I am Ashley Turner, yoga teacher, psychotherapist, and I am here today with one of my students, Kara Foley. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
So for those of you just jumping on, first of all, if you're jumping on this Facebook Live, definitely jump into the comments and tell us, where are you tuning in from? What do you do? Are you a yoga teacher? Are you a therapist? Kara is a physical therapist, and we're going to talk a little bit more about her work. And but I want to hear who you are, where you're from, and if you have any questions, please post them in the links in the comments below, so that I can follow along and pull your questions in as well. Also, for those of you that might be watching later, please jump in the comments as well, because I'm going to keep coming back and checking on these and commenting on these and answering all of you guys. So happy to have you guys here. So Kara, tell us a little bit about where you live, who you are, and what you do.
Yeah, so I live in a town called Deep River, Ontario. So it's essentially between Ottawa and North Bay. We're off of the corner of Algonquin Park. So we basically just live in the forest, and there's beautiful beaches here and lots of nature. I grew up here. I was living for years in the city and just hit a point where I needed to get back to nature. So that's where I live right now.
I'm so jealous of all your photos on Instagram and everything. So one day I'll make it up there and come visit you guys. And tell everyone about your practice, because it's so fascinating and you're doing such amazing work.
Yeah, so my practice, I'm a licensed physical therapist, but I took a different road with my practice, and it actually unraveled with a client of mine that I had that was directing traffic and was hit by a car, and so it led me to dive into some more subtle body work. So most of my practice is actually craniosacral therapy, and then neural manipulation, which is using the craniosacral rhythm to stretch the nervous system. And then I do acupuncture as well. So that's the bulk of my practice, is dealing with chronic pain and things that maybe traditional therapy hasn't necessarily worked for.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And you have a private practice, right? You own your own practice there.
Yeah.
And you have other therapists that are starting to work for you, or how are you building that out?
Yeah, so we recently just built another office. So right now I have 2 massage therapists that are working here part-time. One of them is, I think, leaving at the end of the month, and then we're ramping up to bring on some new health practitioners right now. Yeah.
And so tell everyone your website so we can get it up there, and everyone, please go check out her stuff.
Yeah, so our website's www.physiobodhi.com, and it goes into kind of the services that we offer. We also have just a small vibrant living shop, so we strongly believe in, everything that you use shouldn't be toxic, and just promoting well-being from a home and body perspective. And then we have a small yoga studio as well, and a small team of teachers, and we have some pretty cool stuff going on. So I know, you may not necessarily live here, but if you ever happen to be in the area, we usually have some cool stuff going on, some cool events. Like we have a hot stone restorative yoga coming up for Valentine's Day. Like, it's pretty awesome. So we have some really dedicated yogis and yoga teachers in this town, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So this is so exciting. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have Kara on is Kara attended the live Yoga Psyche Soul training, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, which is how Yoga Psyche Soul Live can really help you, of course, if you're a yoga teacher, but also if you're a physical therapist, acupuncturist, body worker. I have a lot of people come through the training that say they did maybe a basic 200-hour teacher training that really focused on primarily just the physical aspects of the practice, the asana, alignment, sequencing, which is so important, of course, anatomy, of course, such a foundation. And Yoga Psyche Soul then offers like a whole other dimension of the practice and an integration. So I wanted to get some people on for you guys to really explain how they're using this training, this curriculum, and what's been working for them. So Kara, tell us a little bit. First of all, I'd love to hear why you even decided to jump on the Yoga Psyche Soul train.
Yeah. I think it was 2014 at the Toronto Yoga Conference. So I was living in Toronto at the time, and I took your chakra psychology. and it was the year that you launched. So it was 2014 or 2015, maybe?
Yeah.
And so you were talking about the program and it appealed to me. So I signed up for the email list. I just kind of kept it in my back pocket because I had a lot of things going on in my life and still do. But so the way that you taught, though, really spoke to me in linking the physical and the psychological. And then just also the way that you were breaking things down was just how I learned. So I learned by someone talking about something and then moving it in your body or giving it a practical application. So your teaching style really appealed to me after that one day retreat. And then I just followed. And then this year when you put the call out, and it just felt like there's never the best timing for anything, but it felt like something I had to do. Like I just had to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say has been, what are some of the tools that you've taken and are using in your practice now?
Yeah, so one thing I noticed when I came back is when you teach, you storytell, and I loved that. So I have a very strong movement background, and typically I would structure my classes around, like a physical goal. And then I also love, because you see all the time that it's not just the physical in the room, but then I started structuring around stories, and it's nice because it's my studio, so I can do whatever I want. So I did actually, I had picked up a book, and it was all the stories of the asanas, and I saw how magical the classes when you weave them that way can be. And so I would weave a class around Hanuman, and then that was our peak pose, and then diving into, why we do this in devotion. And so taking the training just really gave me the confidence to weave those other, what people would maybe see as the mystical pieces into my classes and just own it, because that's who I am. And it's not just a physical practice for me. So it really felt it gave me that authority to just kind of own my voice and how I want to teach and how I want to present yoga.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's a great example. Yeah, I do find, of course, there is such a big physical component because we're practicing at least 2 to 2.5 hours every day. And then there's an hour and a half sadhana. And definitely, I think the weaving is, it's one aspect of my style of teaching, but it's just sort of naturally, again, how I learn is. Okay, there, we're back.
Yeah.
Glitch. The stories can elicit so much in our emotional body and in our psyche, but then integrating that and weaving that into the physical really lands it and anchors it in a whole different way. And so we want to be kind of, opening as many doorways as possible for people, because we never know what doorway is going to work for someone. Everyone's wired so differently. And so I love that you have really found that multidimensional aspect, in your teaching was enhanced. And what for you, in terms of working with your physical therapy clients or your acupuncture clients, have you noticed any tools or that are moving over into that sphere, into your clinical practice?
Yeah, so in general, I think anyone who is a body worker, you're working with their minds, right? Because they're on your table, they're talking to you, they're telling you things that they might not even tell their family members or their best friends. So I think it definitely gave me more tools for that. Obviously I always refer on if it needs to be referred on, but even just some of the embodiment practices, I'd always give yoga as homework, but some of the other practices that come up, or the breath work or the chakra work, weaving those into treatment plans as well is a really powerful tool. So it wove in that way. And then the other really big way that the training wove in for me was owning my worth. So I hadn't raised my rates in 8 years. And what I do is very unique. And yes, I'm doing it in a small town. So I was, pricing myself more than other practitioners, but still pricing myself competitively. And then after the first 2 weeks that I was down with you guys. Like people were like, you're crazy, raise your rates. And so I came back and I gave 30 days notice and I put my rates up, and it really felt good because I was at a point where sometimes I would just be frustrated about coming in and, feeling that I wasn't getting my worth. And so, that was probably one of the biggest impacts on my practice, was just realizing the unique nature of it and my worth. So that was really a huge piece for me.
Yeah, and the value of that. I know that's all on module 6. I'm like on you guys to really lean into that growing edge and stretch, because it is such valuable work in the world. And, again, I always say hold, 15, 10% as sliding scale for sure of all your appointments. And I do that as well in my therapy practice. But, really, we are the ones that create the value and the perceived value in our audience, in our following, in our clients. And so we're helping to define the marketplace. And so it's important that we rise in that integrity and in that empowerment, again, with integrity though. Mm-hmm. So what would you say has been one of the more surprising aspects of the training? Something that maybe a tool or a practice or an event, something that maybe it was even an aha moment for you that was really unique?
So for me, and you do this really beautifully with everyone at some point, but for me, it really fell into alignment. The big aha moment was, I don't even remember what the question was, but it came down to me not feeling heard, and then realizing that good parent message that I didn't get, even though I had amazing parents, but I was the youngest. So that piece of being heard and realizing that I felt heard in my career, and that in the shift that I'm making more into the yoga sphere, that I felt anxiety about losing that voice. So that was my biggest aha moment. And it wasn't even around worth. It wasn't around all these things. It was around, this is where I'm seen and heard. And if I shift that, am I going to lose that? So that was my biggest aha moment. And it was really beautiful because it came out in module 3, and then module 4 was Bhakti. And that's all about being heard and all about voice. And so that was probably the biggest module for me, because I had gone to one of the body workers you recommended, and he called me out on Vishuddha. And then I went into Bhakti the next week with you. So that was for sure my biggest aha moment was, it's really easy as a teacher. Like before I taught yoga, I taught spinning for 10 years. Like I can turn on my voice, I can present, but I can do that when I'm in a room of people I know want to listen to me, right? Whereas in other situations, I'm really reserved in that aspect. So that was my biggest takeaway is, one, realizing that, and two, seeing ways that I could work on it and practices that help you work on it. And that was my hugest, very big takeaway that I'm still working on since module 4.
I remember that, and that was so amazing. I definitely remember that moment and that sort of interaction about your voice. And what's fascinating to me is that I would say there are 2 really big personal challenges that people have that I see come through the training. One of them is just confidence in general. Like you said, owning your worth, your value, and making money, creating a career that really reflects that. The other one is voice, is people finding their voice, being confident in their voice, being confident being seen and heard, being confident putting themselves out there creatively, maybe even provocatively. And it's such, and we have that whole module 4, which is on mantra, bhakti, and nada yoga, the yoga of sound, finding your voice, activating your voice. Mm-hmm. And so you're so not alone in that. There's so many people that have that experience, especially women. We see that happening now, and the rise of the female voice is coming, but we've just been conditioned. It's just been a part of our inherent culture that our female voices have been repressed. And so Okay, back again. So one thing I'd like to touch on, and I know you've had, you said you were going through a lot before.
Mhm.
There's just a lot happening, I know, in your life and your, family system, your
Yeah.
home life. And so anything that you want to share about that or about how the training has impacted and helped transform in your personal life?
So definitely the training, like being in the training and having all of that support in that kula and, like having this whole other family, like that in itself is just an amazing experience. And just knowing that like, no matter what happens, you have, these people that are going to have your back for life. And then also, that whole thing that you speak of and Rod speaks of your karma being your dharma, right? And so, a snippet of my backstory is that, I have a husband who has cancer. My father was diagnosed with cancer this year, had my yoga practice in my back pocket to help us get through that. And one thing that we really want to do is create a program for others around that, what practices are helpful for that and what sadhanas and what meditations and, just all of these tools that people don't necessarily have to pull you through that. And, as crappy as that experience can be, it can be a really beautiful experience and a really big learning experience. And, one that will, bring you towards enlightenment should you choose to let it. So, that's still going on in my life, but I feel this really big pull, and the business module is really great for that, and support networks, amongst my other project I want to do around anatomy, but, really kind of solidifying that we all have our stories, and most of the people in Yoga Psyche Soul, like we're there because we have a story. And, what can you do with that story in your life to make something beautiful out of it and help other people?
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that that's, one of my biggest intentions is just when you look at, honestly, just on the existential level of why are we here? What are we doing here? We're here to serve, we're here to help each other out as brothers and sisters along this path. And life is hard. And all of us have a big threshold of initiation or more than one. And so whether it's, a child that's sick or a parent or a partner that's sick or a divorce or infidelity or childhood abuse or whatever it might be, Yoga Psyche Soul is really built to help you alchemize that and turn those wounds into wisdom and then offer that wisdom out into the world. And that's the hero's journey. And so how do we do that in really practical, tangible ways? And that's where we find our empowerment. So thank you for sharing that. And I just want to, just pull back the curtain that like we're all here together. Like let's jump in and have a really safe space to explore what comes up around that, because a lot of times it can be intense emotion, whether it's anger or sadness or disappointment, forgiveness, and then turn it into our empowerment and really fly. And so that's what this community is entirely based on and anchored on. So anything else that you would share? Any other sort of like favorite moments or anything that you would share with someone that might be on the fence or doesn't know if this is right for them?
Yeah. So, well, for me, one of my favorite moments, because I like the Radiant Sutra has been like one of my favorite books for years. So having the guest teacher, Lauren Roshan, that was really special for me. And, I know it guests aren't always going to land with everybody, and there's so many different opinions about stuff, and you can be rubbed the wrong way, but I just thought that was really, really magical. Like, the connections that you have in that community and the people you bring in, it's just so incredible. And then the other piece that I think really lended to it was the fact that it was in Venice. And every time I was there, it's just the community, like everyone's just so creative and everyone's just being themselves. And I also think just the setting of having it in Venice is valuable because you just are like, oh, I can just be myself and everyone's going to love it and it's fine. And you walk down the street or you go to a cafe, like people are friendly, they're nice. You meet people on the street, and just the community in that place outside of the Kula community is really magical as well. And then also for me, it was really important to take the live training, and I'm sure this will resonate with some other people in that, if you're a business owner or you're super busy or you have a lot going on in your life, like, I know I'm not going to sit down and do an online training. That's not going to happen. Like, I'm not going to schedule that hour or two every day to do it. Like, I need to separate myself from my day-to-day to do that training and then bring the practices home. Like, I brought mudras home. Like, mudras really, really spoke to me because I work, and I think it's because I work with my hands. Like, that was huge for me. So, I think that if you think there's never a perfect time, if you're like, oh, I don't even have time for an online training, like, you just need to figure it out. Like, I know I need to separate myself and I need to go and I need to be immersed. And maybe that's, you too, if people are thinking about it, you can have a ton going on in your life and people will step up and they'll take care of the other stuff for you so that you can do it. And even just the collaborations, people I met on your training that were talking about collaborations in the future. And so there's just something about the face-to-face and the connection, and even the people that came in for a week, like, I still chat with them like at least once a week on, social media. Like, we're messaging, and they weren't even there for all of the weeks. They were maybe there for one. So even if you're just jumping in for one, it's, it's an instant community.
Mm-hmm. I love so much of what you just said. And it's first of all, just start with what you said right now, that, for those of you that, and I'm sort of the same way, like, I'm not great taking online courses, even though I have an online course, and it's an amazing option for people that really can't travel, and, it's much more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you're busy and you have children, or like, Kara runs her own business and is the primary, provider in her family, getting away and immersing yourself. And that's why I love the live training so much. And it really is, it holds the most special place in my heart, because the immersion experience, there's nothing like that. It's you taking that week for yourself, or those 2 weeks together for yourself, and really going into deep sadhana and going and just being completely immersed and saturated and marinating in all the different dimensions of the practice. And one of the reasons that I've kept it in Venice, and I thought about, we could do it at a retreat center in Costa Rica or Bali, or, all these places people go. But number one, I think it can be more affordable when we're here, because you can share Airbnbs, which is what most people do, and it makes it more affordable. But also because Venice is such a hub, Santa Monica, Venice is such a hub. Obviously, it's where I live. And it's really the reason why I've never moved, because the community here is so inspiring. Like you said, all the cafes and restaurants and other yoga studios and stores, and everything is just vibrant and rich and inspiring and very supportive for this lifestyle. And so I think it lends itself to people come from all over the world for this trainings, from Europe, from Australia, New Zealand, of course, Canada, where you're from, everywhere, South America. And so it's really fun to be able to come here, and we take advantage of it and go out and have field trips and excursions every single week. Every module will be going out into the land and the community. But I love that. And I love that you mentioned that, because it's it's an important piece for me too. And I feel so blessed to be able to bring in my friends and artisans and colleagues and teachers, and then take advantage of this location. So definitely, if you are like Kara, or even like me, and you feel like you're not completely, oriented to an online program, even though the online program, we film a lot of the live training and put it in the online program. So you're going to get that transmission. But I would encourage you to think about doing the immersion, and really, when we get out of our environment, you're extracting yourself. It also helps break the roles that we're playing, and we were able to look more clearly and in the separation with a little bit of space, and see what's happening in our personal life at home that maybe we want to shift. And having that space and being somewhere else can really help with that, lend that perspective. So, yay! Well, thank you so much. And anything else that you wanna share, or just mention for people?
No, I think I covered it all. I made myself notes. I think I covered it all, but I just think that, if you are thinking about doing this training, just, figure out if you can, even pop in for a couple modules. I plan to do half of them and then the other half. And then once I was there, I just signed up for more. So
it just usually happens, which is so fun.
I highly, highly recommend it. I've recommended it to a few people since coming back. And, even at a minimum, like I always tell people, if you're not in a place you can do it yet, like even just getting your emails with the little tidbits, like my friend who's massaging here today, she wants to do like your 3 p.m. one.
Oh, yay.
So, but she's like, I have a client. I'm like, it's okay. She sends replays. So it's really valuable content, whether it's the emails, the online module, or the in person, and the materials you even go home with that you can sift through later. It's it's so much learning and so much value content, and it's taught in a really accessible way. So I can't recommend it enough. It really spoke to me, and I think it'll speak to a lot of people, whether you're a body worker or just a teacher who wants to dive deeper.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. For those of you that are interested, I just put up the website that please book a call if you're seriously interested in the training. I want to make sure this is a good fit for you. And so I'd love to jump on the phone with you. The link is right there, bit.ly/YPS call 2009, and that's case sensitive. And we're going to put it in the comments below as well. But I'd love to jump on the phone with you all for 20 minutes and just answer any questions and feel it out, and for you to feel it out. And thank you so much, Kara. I can't wait to see you because you're coming back.
Yeah, and yoga conference. I'll see you there.
Yes, exactly. So Toronto, for those of you that are in Canada, we'll be back at the Toronto Yoga Conference, which is one of my favorite events of the year. Mm-hmm. And thank you, honey. So good to see you. So also, let's put up what's your Instagram handle? Let me put it up here.
Kara, Kara.embodied.
All right. So go follow Kara on Instagram.
Thanks.
And you can see everything she's doing and her fun, amazing life up in Canada, which I'm so jealous of the nature that you're in, and your new puppy.
Yeah, there's puppy spam too. So
yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Leave your questions in the comments below, and I will be getting back to them. Namaste. Bye.
Namaste.